Hi everybody, December the 26th, and I am speaking from the Book of Jim, first Book of Jim, and I'm going to share with you my retirement journey as far as the process and costs required for me to get my Pensionado Visa, or the retirement visa for Colombia. Just want to put out there that everybody's different. Everyone has different reasons for doing the things they want to do, different reasons for moving to Colombia, and I'm no exception. I'll give you a little bit of my history about why, because I think it's important to talk a little bit about that, as why Colombia. As a Canadian, we got it pretty good in Canada, honestly. What's my story as to why Colombia? Why not Mexico? I've got my cousin and her husband are becoming snowbirds in Mexico. Why not just do that? So a little bit about me is I first came to Colombia in 1984 when I came to serve in an orphanage in Villavicencio. And basically, in between Bogota and Villavicencio, I spent about 3 months here. At the time, I was a new Christian, and I was wanting to experience some missionary work. But after that event, I never went back, and I kept loosely in contact with the organization over the years, until about the year 2000 or so, maybe 2003, something like that. I reconnected with the organization, and eventually started bringing teams down to help with the, by then it was a school. So the orphanage discontinued. Now it's a school and a church in a farm area. So I did that since about then, for the last 17 years or 20 years or so. And it was during that time that I just really wanted to, every time I came down, I didn't really want to leave. I only came down for a couple weeks at a time, maybe maximum 3 at one time. Normally on average about once a year. And so it was a dream of mine to always come down here permanently when I retired. And so I retired when I turned 60, a couple years back. I called it Pension Collection Day because COVID was around, and I continued on working in healthcare best I could until COVID was over with. More or less over with. And so I decided to make the plunge. So I sold everything I had, cashed out, and made plans. So let's go straight into the requirements of the visa. So the retirement visa, now I want to say that I started this process around, it would have been back in August, and I came to Colombia, to Medellin, actually to get some Spanish lessons first, and I thought I would start the process there, the application for my visa. So I was in Medellin taking Spanish lessons at a hostel, Spanish school called Blink, and I'll leave the link below on the comment section about Blink. I highly recommend that organization. And while I was there, I then decided to get a lawyer to assist me, and that's when I discovered that I was kind of back-asswards, that I really couldn't apply for the visa process from Colombia. I had to go back to Canada. So they changed the rules in October 21st, so it was also my bad luck, actually, that I didn't apply sooner, because in some ways it would have been easier to get my visa with the old rules. But what are the requirements? So, and a lot of you are watching this probably already know this. I'm saying it because when you go online, it's pretty confusing, to tell you the truth. It just seems like you get different different messaging and different information. So this is my experience, and this is what I had to do as of December 2022. So you have to show evidence of 3 times the minimum wage of a Colombian minimum wage. And that changes just recently. The Colombian minimum wage increased by 15%. So that's going to be a moving target. It's also going to be affected by exchange rates, etc. But anyways, it comes to about $1,000 Canadian. You have to have evidence for it. Secondly, and this is a new piece apparently, you have to have a medical exam saying that you are fit, that there won't be any problems. Third one is also, it seems to be a new one, is a criminal record check. Show that you're not a criminal, right? Or at least that you haven't been caught. And lastly is that you have to provide evidence that you have medical coverage for minimum 1 year. Now, I made the mistake when I went to Colombia I thought I could apply from there. And the reason I thought that is I had friends who were Americans who were able to do that. But U.S. and other countries can apply for their application while in Colombia because they have signed, and the governments have signed an agreement. I think it's called the Helsinki Accord or something like that, or a subsection of that. What that allows is it allows you to legalize your documents while in Colombia. So take it from Colombian government's perspective. They don't know who you are. They want to make sure that the information you give is legit and that it's real. Canada didn't sign that accord, so we have to go back to Canada. We have to do it from Canada, and we have to go to a notary. You sign an affidavit with the notary public, provide them with the documents. You have to get your criminal record check, all that stuff. Provide it for them. They then send it, and I'm from British Columbia. They then send it to the Department of Justice in British Columbia. And from there, the Department of Justice in British Columbia sends it to the Colombian consulate in Vancouver. And from there, then they send it back to the notary, who then sends it to me, and then I send it to Colombian government for the application. Now, there are only 2 consulates in Canada. One is in Ottawa and one is in Vancouver. And I also know that there are a little bit different rules for Ontario as far as how that legalization process is concerned. Regardless, you have to do it from Canada. Just the criminal record check alone, it requires your physical presence there. So you might as well get it all done there. And of course, there's fees along the way, etc. And I'll give a complete cost breakdown of what all this cost me as well. So yeah, it's a bit complicated. I stayed in Kelowna with friends and family, and I did the process through there. Now you don't have to I did not have to do a physical interview, although they did call me by phone and also emailed me for additional information. Now my mistake, I just made a couple mistakes that delayed me. One mistake was that I forgot to do my criminal record check. And so I had already sent all the documents off with the notary, and then I had this epiphany, oh no, I forgot the CRC. Had to redo it all again. Not all the other, just that whole process again, so it delayed me by a couple of weeks. It cost me an additional fee, so every time you send it to consulate, I think it's like $17 or something like that I had to send. So it cost me another $17, and it cost me additional notary fees as well. The second mistake I made was I only provided 6 months worth of medical coverage, which I thought, I'm going to go to Colombia and I'm going to get a full year there with their local people, because there's a problem with, I went through Blue Cross through my benefits, and they will provide it only at 6 months at increments at a time, but the efficacy of that coverage is linked to your ability to access government health care, British Columbia health care. Now, once you're gone from the country for 6 months, you're not covered anymore. So I got around that by doing 2 6-month increments, and then in Colombia here, once I get my Colombian ID, I will apply for the local guy called Sura, and get that all settled. So, what's the next step here? I got some notes. So then the application was sent. It took about, so all that process in Canada, up to the point of time of the sending the application, took probably, including my mistakes, probably about a month and a half. And then the actual application, once it was sent, from the time it was sent to the time I received the actual electronic visa, was 2 weeks, which is pretty good. And they sent it to me electronically. And then once you receive it, you have 15 days to get your Colombian ID. Now, if you're out of country when it happens, the clock starts ticking once you enter the country. So from 15 days from the time of entry into the country. Once I got there, I stayed at a friend's in Medellin, and I lined up, and my lawyer lined up an appointment for me with the immigration. I showed up for the appointment, and within an hour, had my passport stamped that the cedula or the ID was approved, and then told come back in 10 days to pick up the actual physical copy. You can't get anything done once you get that, unless you get that physical copy of your ID. So if you want to open up a bank account, get a cell phone plan or internet or anything like that, you need that physical copy. You can't use a number on a passport. So that's what I'm currently waiting for right now. Now, some details here. You can do all that by yourself, eh? You don't need to get a lawyer or anything like that, but I chose to hire Langdon Law from Medellin. They were recommended to me by the owner of Blink, and other expats are aware of this fellow as well, or this company as well. And I am personally quite grateful that I had them. I didn't really care what the cost was, because it was only, I mean, it's really nice to have them navigate the system for you. Just making the appointment alone for the cedula is invaluable. Helping to navigate the new rules also was helpful. A great company, I'd recommend them. There are many other ones too, so you can shop around, but I'll recommend those guys, Langham. Now, what did I get? I got a 6-month visa. So this is where it was kind of misleading online, because it looked like the new rules, they weren't giving out short visas. According to what I read on the internet, the minimum was a 3-year visa, and then out of nowhere comes the 6-month one. Also great. So I'm just thankful I got it. But what does that mean? Well, that means that I have to go back to Canada in March and start the whole process again. Because you have to apply for your renewal 30 days prior to expiry. So my visa expires January 2nd, I think. So I have to reapply for May 1st. But it's going to take me a little while to get the documentation again in Canada. And so what does that mean? So then I can send all the documentation to my lawyer, but that has to be done. And then once I send it to my lawyer, then I can go back to Colombia and finish off the process here and hope for a 3-year visa. So apparently I'll have to do that every renewal. So I'm really hoping it's 3 years. Kind of a pain in the bum otherwise. So what does that mean? I'm not going to be looking for a place to rent, or I do own a piece of property I'm not going to build. And I'm going to make decisions like that until I determine if I'm going to be here for a longer period of time. Doing it every 6 months, it's kind of, might as well do it with a tourist visa, or come as a tourist and extend. So total cost for me, plus or minus. I do have a cost breakdown for you, itemized with some approximations. I think all in, by the time I get my 3-year visa, long-term, it'll be about $10,000 Canadian. And remember that if you pay fees in Colombia with your visa, it's a 2.5% charge on your visa or any kind of exchange. Plus you got exchange rates, etc., and that's always changing. So I'm going to say that all in, including your health insurance, you should allow for about 10 grand. Now the health insurance is by far the greatest expense. Some of that's my age, so 62 years old gets a little steep, especially if you're older. And that doesn't change with SOTA. SOTA comes in and around the same. So anyway, so that's my conclusion. I hope this is helpful. If you have any comments or questions, put them on the links below or in the comment section below. I'm just sharing with you my experience and kind of an update with the current rules. So anyways, take care. Oh, one thing I'll have... Anyways, never mind. Thanks, bye-bye.